Let's start with the basics. What's the name of the child? Okay. How old is the child? And just tell me the basics on how long and what the child's been going through.
Okay. All right. Well,
and what's your name?
My name is Corey Cabana. I am stepfather to Jenny and Bodhi Schofield. I'm married to Susan Schofield. Actually, today is our 4th anniversary. But the issue at hand is DCFS showed up on March 8th, 2019 and took both children. Bodhi was 11 and Jenny was 17 at the time, 16 at the time. And they showed up and they took the kids very, very, very easily. They showed up with a removal order. They did not show up with a warrant. I know that a removal order has a evidence requirement of a preponderance of evidence, and a preponderance of evidence is really no more than gossip, hearsay, or rumor. There's absolutely no justification for a preponderance of evidence in anything more than just an investigatory tool. It shouldn't be used in court as anything. Clear and convincing evidence is paperwork. It is an affidavit of truth signed by a person under the threat of perjury.
So tell me the beginning on how all this started occurring after they took the child and the claim they made.
Okay.
Should you take your sunglasses off? No.
The DCFS showed up at the door with the allegations of the children being over-medicated, Susan, my wife, being unable to accurately describe symptoms and events. In other words, Munchausen by proxy.
Wasn't that up to the doctor?
You'd think, but okay. No. We're being legally boxed in, not medically boxed in. And then the third allegation was mother's mental health was too detrimental to continue to properly care for the children. Now, DCFS investigator, the children were taken in March. DCFS investigator turned in her report in May of 2019, and her report said that she found no evidence to sustain the allegations. Nevertheless, DCFS felt that there was influence by the mother in the medical treatment plan. And that is what they say, that's their hook for keeping the investigation or keeping this case open. So the judge has declared that clear and convincing evidence has been presented to him, and he has ruled upon that clear and convincing evidence against my wife, Susan.
You know the name of that judge?
His name is Brett Bianco.
Brett Bianco.
He is the brother of the Riverside Sheriff, or the Riverside Police Chief, or something. His brother is the...
So they're tied in with the law enforcement who are supposed to be investigating.
Yes. And this judge also, Brett Bianco, was elected. And let me tell you, I'm going to do my best to make sure that he does not get reelected in 2025. But he was elected in 2018. I guess they have a 7-year term. He does not have experience. When he got our case, he had only been on the bench for less than a year. Okay? They never, at the very first dependency hearing, they did not have a competency hearing for either child. Okay? In the rule book, in the Welfare and Institution Code, they are obligated to perform a competency hearing if they feel it's, of value. My question is, how is a diagnosed autistic nonverbal boy not put in front of court for competency? Because competency is defined as a person that can contribute to his defense, their defense in front of court. Bodhi is not capable of contributing a sentence in court. So he's not competent, yet they overlooked that one. I believe that's Welfare and Institution Code 709. They say that Susan violated Welfare and Institution Code 300B and 300C, yet in our time with DCFS, DCFS has violated Welfare and Institution Code 300B, 300C, 300D, 300F, 300I, and 300H.
So how long has the child been gone for out of your care?
It's been 2 years, 3 months now.
And for that period of time, what is happening? What do you have in that book right there?
This is our Bodhi book. Our Bodhi book is filled with incident reports and pictures of injuries that we've discovered while having our visit. Okay, we had originally we had 3 1-hour visits a week, and they would make us drive from Valencia to South Central LA to have a visit at 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I had to quit my job in order to make these visits. Because I don't know how many jobs that you've had where you can leave at noon every 3 times a week and still get paid for the rest of the day. So I had to do that. We would have our monitored visits. We've had monitored visits since the very first day. They've never given us an explanation as to why they feel the monitored visits needs to continue, but
You're paying extra for those too?
No, we're not paying.
No?
DCFS is paying the employee. They have a regular employee who is monitoring. Okay, everything from the social worker to a human services aide to other social workers that are not directly involved with our case.
Compared to an unmonitored visit and a monitored visit, the price doesn't go up?
Oh, we don't...
You don't pay anything for seeing the child?
Other people have to pay for monitors. DCFS makes
Right.
other people pay to have the monitor.
But for the 2 years you've been paying to see the child?
No, we've not been. They've not made us pay. No.
Wow.
Yeah, that's because they're not our friends, and I'm surprised that they haven't gone to that. But I suspect that it might be coming soon if they can get it done, because they're not a friend. They're not our friend. They're not helping. The very first, the 3 allegations that I noticed, they're actually 4 because the over-medication is 1 for each child. And then, because there's Janny and Bodhi. And then the Munchausen by proxy, and then mother's mental health. Now, the father, Michael Schofield, the piece of shit that he is, he was interviewed by a social worker and told the social worker that he had no idea if Susan has ever seen a doctor. He has no idea if she's ever been diagnosed, and he has no idea whether or not she's ever taken medication for any mental health issues. Lie, lie, lie. Because they went to the same doctor together in the same car for 10 years. DCFS could have easily produced, or should say, the court-appointed lawyer should have been able to produce evidence to show that was a lie, but they chose not to. We told them that it was a lie, and they didn't care. Let's see. Oh, there is a Welfare and Institution Code that every special needs child prior to placement in a foster home is supposed to have an individualized health care plan in place. They violated that with both children every single time.
So they're depriving the children of their rights.
Yes. They've deprived them of their rights under disabilities, the Americans with Disabilities Act. They've deprived them their rights under that. They've deprived them their educational rights. Bodhi has been, he's had a 5 or 6 month period where he hasn't gone to school prior to COVID. Let's see, they tried to get Janny to choose to not go back to her high school, but she said that I want to go to my high school. She actually was in court and said she wanted to go to her high school, so they had to transport her. And let me tell you, unmedicated Janny in his car is a fun thing. She attacks the driver. She grabs the steering wheel. She tries to changed the gear selector. She opens the door. She runs. She's escaped out of 4 moving vehicles. She actually assaulted a DCFS employee who was driving her, and there is an actual police report that was filed against her that the LA County supervisor, Catherine Barger, made vanish. She made it disappear. So,
Wow. Wonder why.
We have evidence. We have the paperwork. And at first they wanted to send Janny to a diversionary program or something, and DCFS put a stop to that real fast because they didn't want any of this out in any other area of court that they aren't absolutely in control of. So they squashed that. Let's see. Oh, during the time that Janny was in DCFS custody, they kept both children in a homeless shelter. Oh, well, let's go to the first day. The first day the children were taken, DCFS social worker Judy Thomas took them to a foster home, and Janny was able to call us and said that she's scared and that she wants to come home. But, the lady had cats and another teenage boy at home, and so, maybe she was going to be okay. We get a text at 10:30 at night from the social worker saying that there's an issue with steep stairs. Bodhi's not capable of wandering around the house at night because, he will hurt himself because he doesn't pay attention to things, and stairs especially are difficult for him when he's not present. He can fall down the stairs. So the social worker picked them up at 10:30 at night and took them to a homeless shelter for children called Wayfinder in downtown Los Angeles. Janny spent the next month living in Wayfinder. Bodhi spent the next 3 weeks living in Wayfinder. During the period of the 3 weeks that Janny and Bodhi were together in Wayfinder, they went to 4 ER visits, 4 hospital visits for ERs, because they were hurting themselves, self-injury. They were smashing their heads against concrete walls and smashing their heads against the concrete floor, falling out of bed, flopping, attacking people. So in the first 20 days or so, there were 4 ER visits. At these ER visits, each time, there were 4 different ERs, mind you. Each time they were seen, the doctors were told of what was going on, and they were told the medication that Janny especially was on. 4 individual doctors came and gave the social workers a script for medication to refill 4 different times. Okay, they cut Janny and Bodhi's medication off on the first day, cold turkey, without medical advice. Okay, Janny lost 20 pounds in 13 days. And the reason why we know it's 20 pounds and why we know it's 20 days or 13 days is because we have ER reports. Day 1, she weighed 140 pounds. Day 13, she weighed 120 pounds. They called it the stomach flu, yet she never had a temperature. Now, they also state unequivocally, non-medical personnel are telling us that Janny never suffered withdrawal symptoms. So, unlike every other person on the planet who has ever been on medication long-term, Janny doesn't suffer from medical withdrawal symptoms like every other person on the planet. Isn't that amazing? She couldn't do it. So they lied about that. After the period was over, Bodhi was placed in the UCLA psych ward for 45 days for evaluation. Janny went to Maryvale, which is a therapeutic home. It was the oldest orphanage in California. It used to be run by nuns. I guess it kind of still is run by nuns. But it's a lockdown facility. It is a place where the rough and tumble girls of South Central LA who escape from their foster homes get thrown in because they haven't committed a big enough crime to get thrown in juvenile hall. They get put in Maryvale. So Janny is an innocent 16, 17-year-old girl who's never been around these kind of people before, who've been through their life experience, and they're rough, they're tough. You know, they have no problems, you know, getting in a fight. Janny's never been in a fight before, and she's dumped in this situation. And the amazing thing is that 11 months later, she comes out speaking fluent Spanish with a very good accent, so I'm told. But the point being is that, you know, they didn't know what to do with Janny. They didn't know what to do with Bodhi, because when Bodhi got done with UCLA, and by the way, UCLA cost $10,000 a day. So that's 45 days, $10,000 a day. $450,000 spent for nothing, because they didn't do anything except put him back on similar medication that he was on before. But they didn't change his diagnosis. They didn't change anything. DCFS fought in open court that Janny was improperly diagnosed. Okay? Janny was diagnosed at the age of 6 with schizophrenia by the chief of psychiatry at UCLA, Dr. Mark D'Antonio. Okay? So she wasn't diagnosed by Joe at the strip mall. Okay? She was diagnosed by a guy who's been around the business in a long time, and I'm certain is one of the most respected psychiatrists in his field. He also diagnosed Bodhi with autism and intermittent explosive disorder. And he has been their doctor for most of their lives. But DCFS decided that she was not schizophrenic. So when they took her off her medication, that was their justification, is that she didn't need the medication. During the time that she was off her medication, during the Maryvale period, she had 38 incident reports where she assaulted people, she injured people, she injured herself, she damaged property, she got up on a car and smashed the hood and the trunk and the roof. She got up on a car and stomped all over it. 38 incident reports. The judge during this time said that Janny and Bodhi were both thriving under DCFS care. They were never thriving. Janny was a A- average student when she left from our home. During the time at DCFS, she had a D- average. Friday, she graduated high school with an A her last year, because the medication kept her being able to focus on what was going on. Because when she's not medicated, she doesn't have an attention span. She doesn't have reason, and she doesn't have patience. Some people, when they get mad, it's kind of a gradual slope. Right. Janny's a straight wall. It takes no time at all.
She's special.
Yeah.
She's a special girl.
She
has to be treated very special by everyone in her life.
Yes, but the thing is, she's also very smart. I mean, how many 4-year-olds do you know with 147 IQ? So, and we know how smart she is because unmedicated, she spent 11 months in the Maryvale environment, surrounded by the girls in Los Angeles, right? And they all spoke Spanish, and she learned Spanish by being immersed in it.
So she can adapt fast.
Yes, if she's concentrating and focusing on what she likes, she can learn anything so fast. And that was unmedicated. Imagine what we can do with her when we give her something she likes.
Right.
So, and
that's how it is with art. You give them what they need, and they do what they do.
Yes, and right now she's taking acting classes. Right now she's taking dance lessons. We're going to get her, she wants singing lessons. We're going to work on that. She wants to be an actor. She wants to be an advocate. She wants to be a lawyer. We are going to facilitate every step that she needs to reach any of the goals that she wants. Our job is to make sure that she gets to the step. Her job is to take the step. But we're going to make sure that she has the ability to take that step.
And that's all real parents are supposed to do is, you be there for your child, and you push them to what they want to do, and, you keep it moral and ethical, and you always win.
All we're doing is making sure that she has the opportunity. So we get her, like I said, to the step. It's like, you go now. here you are. You now have this in front of you. This is your goal.
So it sounds like she's now on her way. She's graduated, and now we're more worried about
Bodhi. Yes, because Bodhi's still in the system. In July of next month, they are having another hearing for Bodhi, and we don't know absolutely, but we do know absolutely that the judge is going to terminate parental rights. But the issue here is that the foster that Bodhi is currently living with is not lined up or signed up to adopt. The last foster was lined up to adopt.
So what does that mean?
Well,
potentially,
what they want to do is they want to cut parental rights and give Bodhi away at the same time
to
the foster that he's living with. But that foster doesn't want to take on the responsibility of adoption because she is a highly sought after foster because she has medical training. Every foster child, every foster parent has a rated level of care. Your basic child with no medical issues whatsoever is a rated level A. And most foster parents are rated level A. When you go to B, C, D, E, and F, I believe is the highest level, with serious medical issues, maybe even mobility issues or whatever. Bodhi is a level D. Bodhi's first foster mother was a rated level A because she was brand new. Okay, we knew she was brand new because she told us. She had 2 children at home of her own. She was a single mother, and she also fostered a 13-year-old girl as well as Bodhi. So, you have a single mother with 2 small children and another foster child besides our Bodhi living in a 2-floor duplex apartment.
Why don't you show a few pictures of those abuse? Because maybe that's why that's happening.
Well, this is, how's that look? This is the bruise that we took a picture of while we were in one of our visits. And the interesting thing is that DCFS they prevent us from taking pictures. The judge says that we cannot take pictures. The judge says that we cannot have a recording device. The mark on the elbow.
Yeah, it's pretty prominent.
Yeah. But the judge tells us that we cannot take pictures of any injuries that we find.
So the judge is depriving you of your First Amendment, and to protect that First Amendment with a camera.
Yes. And
your child.
And DCFS is obligated. See, we didn't know this, but a friend of mine sent me the DCFS employee manual, the social worker's manual, the handbook. And in there, it says whenever an injury is noticed or reported, a social worker has to fill out a Form 550 for every one. And so we've asked the social workers and the social workers supervisor for those Form 550s. You know what our response was? Subpoena it. So
that's because the lawyers, they're all crooked. They're working with CPS and everything else.
All right, I wanna read something. Okay, in October of 2020, we went for our visit, and we saw Bodhi with a kind of substantial bruise on his arm. So Susan took her camera out, her cell phone, and was trying to take a picture of it. And the DCFS employee / monitor was there, and he was preventing her from taking the picture. Now, let's see if I can... he was preventing her from taking the picture. Now, this is how does that look? There you go.
Yeah.
Okay. This is the picture of the bruise that Susan saw. And the DCFS employee was trying to prevent her. She had her camera like this, and she was taking a picture of the video or of the bruise, and the DCFS employee was trying to block her from doing so. And so she did this to the DCFS employee, where she swept his hand away and continued to take a picture, okay? Well, DCFS charged her with battery with that motion. Now, what I'm looking at right now is the hospital report, because after we saw that bruise and we took the picture, they ended the visit as soon as the incident with the camera started. Whenever we start to take a picture, they end the visit and take Bodhi away. All right, so DCFS told us another time prior to this that if we think Bodhi is being abused, then we should call the hotline. So we did. Okay? Now, the very next day, a social worker shows up and takes Bodhi to the hospital to get his injuries examined. What I want to read here is the history of present illness that's notated in the report. It says, 12-year-old autistic male here for evaluation of injury, exigent exam due to mother reporting concerns over marks on minor. Minor is currently in foster care and has been moved to many different locations for the same allegation of suspicious marks. That's not true. Each time this has been reported, the history is usually self-injury during episodes where the minor has lost control. He is on multiple behavioral medications and has intensive psychiatric services. Minor has not been removed from his current placement. During his episodes, he needs to be restrained to prevent hurting himself. He tends to bite his forearms and bang himself on the floor. He's had episodes on Monday, October 5th, 2020, and yesterday, October 6th, 2020, where he needed to be restrained by caregivers to prevent injury. Well, DCFS has always been in complete control over placement. Bodhi went from our home to the first foster home and was removed that night by the foster mother, not by mother's allegations, and then placed in Wayfinder shelter, where he stayed for about 3 weeks or so. Then he went to UCLA for 45 days. Then he went back to Wayfinder for a week, and then he went to his foster mother that he was at when all of the injuries were noticed, okay? So Susan had no involvement with moving any of the DCFS issues, or as far as the what they were talking about, how mother has reported multiple injuries. That's not true. That is absolutely untrue. But yes, this is our Bodhi. How's that look? And Bodhi is a sweet boy. Bodhi,
so what do you want to see happen with Bodhi in the future? Ultimately, what do you want with Bodhi?
Well, we would like to, here's another injury, black eye. Isn't that lovely?
Wow.
And we want Bodhi home, and we want DCFS out of our life. Can you see that good? This is the judge called this a non-existent injury, and the court-appointed lawyer had this picture in her possession and did not submit it to the court. This is a picture of Bodhi's first injury.
Oh my gosh.
That's going across his entire back.
What the
just below his shoulder blade. He jumped off a table and landed on a TV and knocked it off the entertainment center. Well,
that's got to be on them, not him.
Wouldn't it? Under our care, Bodhi was never alone. Okay? Bodhi always had someone within arm's reach of him while he was awake at all times. Bodhi had behaviorists. Bodhi had respite workers. And then Bodhi's had me and his mother, and wherever we were, but somebody was always with Bodhi to make sure he didn't hurt himself. So when someone was making dinner, someone was watching Bodhi. Okay, it wasn't making dinner and watching Bodhi. So I don't blame the foster mother. She was trying to care for 4 kids all by herself, and one of those kids is Bodhi.
All right.
And I know they get paid pretty well for Bodhi, because they put Bodhi in diapers. A 12-year-old boy in diapers, and he's been in diapers ever since, and up until recently, as in last week.
That's abuse.
They had no plan to get him out of diapers until last week.
That's abuse.
So 2 years he's been in diapers, and he's not been in diapers since the age of 7.
So they've got him literally going backwards.
It's called regression. And the judge has adamantly stated in court that he does not agree that Bodhi has regressed. This judge, basically what the judge is telling us is that once we get Bodhi back, we aren't allowed to change his medication.
Who's the DA on the case?
Well, there's no DA. No. Family court is only being run by a non-lawyer DCFS counselor.
But who's the DA of the county?
Oh, it's Garcon.
George Gascon.
It's
Recall
George
Gascon. Look what he's doing to the kids. He could be picking up charges. Instead, no DA's doing nothing, and all these kids are being abused.
Now, we've attempted to file charges against the judge who signed the removal order to take the kids in the first place. And the reason why is because a removal order requires a preponderance of evidence in order for the judge to feel certain that he's following, the right path. A preponderance of evidence is really nothing more than rumor and hearsay and gossip. A warrant, which is what the Fourth Amendment requires for a constitutionally legal search and seizure, you must have a warrant. And a warrant requires clear and convincing evidence. And clear and convincing evidence is defined as evidence of affidavit of truth sworn to under the oath of perjury, and other official documents that also fall under the same perjury guidelines. But a preponderance of evidence, there is no perjury guidance or perjury level for preponderance of evidence. But what the judge is doing, he's taking the preponderance of evidence and he's transferring that into clear and convincing evidence, because the social worker testifies. And if they testify, that is his justification to call it clear and convincing evidence. But it isn't clear and convincing evidence. So we have an affidavit sworn out that we are requesting the District Attorney of Los Angeles to arrest Judge Diaz, because he's the one who signed the removal order. And when he signed the removal order, he violates his oath of office to protect and defend the Constitution, because he knowingly and willingly is signing a removal order which will not meet the burden of proof that a warrant meets. So he is violating the law, violating the Constitution of every parent of every removal order he's ever signed. Is a violation of his oath of office.
Well, that's the only way these kids can stay abused for long periods of time, is by them completely depriving the child.
Disregarding what they're supposed to follow?
Yeah.
Because, I think we need to do a nationwide campaign to remove removal
civil rights.
Removal orders should be outlawed, okay? If someone wants to come take a kid, come get a warrant. Make sure you have the evidence to take a warrant.
Well, right now, a big reason why this is happening with him and other children is because there's no true civil right movement for children. There's no children marching in Washington, D.C.
Well, the civil rights of every American is trampled on almost on a daily basis by the government. Last week I wrote a letter, an email to the Attorney General asking just such a thing. Why is it my responsibility to pay for a lawyer to defend my constitutional rights that the government is violating on me? It shouldn't be that way. The government should pay for my defense of my civil rights. Right. Or better yet, they should stop violating my civil rights. How about that? maybe we need to start on stopping the violation of civil rights first.
Yeah, start dirtying them up. Start exposing the federal crimes, because it's not just state civil rights; it's federal crimes. They're acting under color.
Right.
Paperwork missing.
U.S. Code
USC 18
or
Title
1983 and 40. What is also 43.3 or 43.2. There's many different U.S. codes for what they call color of law, where a person, such as the social worker, is operating under the color of law when she or he serves a removal order to take children, because they are acting in a law enforcement capacity in that respect, where they are not a law enforcement entity. DCFS is not law enforcement. They're, child protection. So there's lots of things. I cannot tell you. The very first court-appointed lawyer that we had on the very first day told us that she can't believe how many things about our case are not normal. I mean, she said that everything about her case so far is 180 degrees away from how she would normally handle a court case. Okay? On the very first day, she knew that. But yet she did not support my wife. She did not believe my wife. Okay? And she didn't fight for my wife. When the allegations are presented, we found this out the hard way. When allegations of whatever abuse are presented in front of family court, as far as children are concerned, if the allegations aren't fought, challenged, put up a argument against, that is the only opportunity that you have to do so. And if you don't do so, it's like written in stone and moved on to the next hearing. And the judge uses the allegations as truth against, the defendant. And that's what they've done. They've taken the allegations, which were never justified and which were never defended, correctly. DCFS never defended their allegations. They never proved their allegations. And our lawyer never fought the allegations. The lawyer could have easily gone to the pharmacy records and asked the pharmacy, how often were the medications dispensed out of cycle? Because, I can't tell you how many times I've been to a pharmacy trying to get medication early, and they're just so willing to just give it away, right? Right? Isn't that no? They are pains in the butts. Everybody knows that pharmacies are pains in the butts. If you need medication early, tough, too bad. You ain't getting it. So there was no over-medication, because if there was over-medication, we would have been constantly going back to the pharmacy to get more medication before it was supposed to get. So, right there. And then the other thing, they never got the doctor to sign an affidavit or to testify in court that the allegations were true. But they also, our lawyer also didn't get the doctor to testify and say they weren't true. So because that didn't happen, the judge is relying on DCFS and says that they're true. That is his justification for saying that the allegations are true, is that incompetent legal representation allows him to stand on that point. And I don't find it right. But, that's just the one of many things. I don't know about family court, but I do know that in criminal court, if the paperwork is wrong,
It's thrown out.
It's thrown out.
On a typo.
On a typo.
Based on a typo.
On a comma.
Yeah.
Or a period. Okay. Yeah. All right. Now, you want to hear something funny? Two separate reports that went in front of the judge stated that Javier Sanchez is the father of the children.
Who the hell is that?
Exactly. Who the hell is that? Everybody knows that the father of the children is Michael Schofield, because it's all over the paperwork. But on two separate reports, back to back, it states that Javier Sanchez is the father of the children. And then on the last page, it says that the judge has read, and under the penalty of perjury, agrees that all representation and documentation in this document is accurate and true. So, on those two reports, the judge himself perjured. And then there's been many times where I'm listed as boyfriend. I was a boyfriend for about 6 months, but we got married pretty darn quick. So I've been stepfather since 2017. So the levels of bullshit that we have to deal with here are beyond reason. I do my best to protect my wife, to keep her, from getting upset. The judge placed a gag order on us. More on my wife and the father, because it says parents, it doesn't mention my name. But more on them, yet the father was able to violate the court order 7 individual times. The judge was told about all 7 times, and the judge chose to not pursue, contempt of court charges. But we do know that if my wife attempted to do one thing, like she's not supposed to put a picture of Bodhi up on her Facebook, because that's contempt of court. And I know for a fact that if she did that, he would throw her in jail for 6 months and fine her, do the maximum penalty against her, because that's what he wants. He wants to punish.
So in other words, it's illegal to love your child.
The father has refused custody 21 times in open court. Not say, absolutely said, I cannot take them. Okay? If he was so concerned, see, that's the thing. DCFS was taken in by Michael in the fact that DCFS had the idea that Michael, the father, was going to take the kids on the very first day. On the dependency hearing on the very first day, they looked at him, and the judge looked at Michael, gave him a big smile, and said, are you going to take the kids? Are you going to take the kids now? Something along those words. And Michael's response was, I can't take the kids. So he refused on the first day. He's refused now 2.5 years later.
I think the judge was giving him more of a test. I think the judge already knew. That's why they smiled like that.
Well, see, Michael Schofield has the ability to fool women and gay men. So what is he? Because the judge didn't give my wife a big smile. He gave my wife a big scowl. He gave Michael a big smile.
Something going on there.
Yep. It's not the first time a Republican judge hides in the closet. Especially since his brother's a sheriff and all. You don't want that family secret coming out. But I think there's something to it. Preponderance of evidence. But, we're going on 2 years, and it's very, 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 very hard. Our whole world was the kids. I mean, everything that we do from the moment we wake up until the moment we go to bed is involving the kids. I mean, Janny needs constant engagement. Bodhi needs constant engagement. So every single day we would be taking them, to this place, and we'd be taking them to this place, and we'd be spending money for admission into, Sky High, the trampoline place, or admission into MB2, the race kart place, or admission into, a play area. There's autistic play areas, Rock the Spectrum, things like that. Bodhi likes to play at, what is it called? Scooter's Jungle. It's a place inside with blow-up slides and things to climb around and jump around.
So he's very active. It's
Yeah.
not like he's
He is very active, but he's also not present. The whole thing is that I don't think that Bodhi is correctly diagnosed, because I don't think the psychiatrist, especially the psychiatrist, they need to spend real time. And I don't mean an hour, but I mean 24 hours straight. I mean, stay with him every single minute and really see what goes on. Because you can't rely on a nurse's opinion, because, they don't know, a nurse isn't a doctor.
unqualified.
Yeah, a nurse isn't a doctor. I mean, nurses are very qualified. I mean, don't get me wrong. Nurses are absolutely qualified to do their job. But when it comes to, real diagnosis, it needs to be evaluated. And Bodhi needs to be evaluated on a long-term basis by a real, curious doctor. Someone who is not thinking the same lines as all the other doctors before, because we know that doesn't work, because he's still no better. He does not have a medication treatment plan. What they give him is Thorazine to knock his butt out, and then they give him guanfacine, which is a mild antipsychotic. But Jani is on the upper level of all psychotic medication, and Bodhi has been too. Bodhi's been on the same medication that Jani has been returned to. DCFS took her off her medication, kept her off her medication for 14 months. As soon as she got placed into a foster home, those foster parents, within the first 2 weeks, put her inpatient, and they medicated her again. DCFS intentionally kept her unmedicated. The doctor at Wayfinder, Dr. Elmashat, piece of shit. Maryvale. Did I say Maryvale? But Dr. Elmashat was the psychiatrist for Maryvale. He said that Jani had he saw no signs of psychosis, but yet he was okay with her attacking people, breaking things, breaking property, suicide threats, AWOLing, where she would try to escape the facility. We found out later that she was AWOLing in her bra and panties, and sometimes not that much. She was running around naked, and there were men who worked there. And this is a locked facility. Every guard had a key. The kids didn't have keys. But the point being is that they kept her that way. The doctor kept her that way and thought it was all fine when she's assaulting everybody and she's hurting herself and she's going to the ER and she's having 45-minute tirades where 5 of the staff have to hold her down. And then when they're holding her down, she's kicking them, she's punching them, she's biting them, she's scratching them. They fought like hell. They were so glad when Jani left, because they finally had a vacation. But when Jani went to the foster home, she was with a wonderful foster family. There's a mom and a dad and a little girl. And we're still in contact with them today. They are great people. They took care of Jani. Jani still communicates with them. They took Jani camping. There was just really good chemistry with all of us. And the foster family kept us in touch. And Jani could call us anytime she wanted. With Bodhi, the foster family is keeping us separated, keeping us distant. They're shutting us out of decisions that might involve school. They try to, but we have an education advocate who takes care of all of our education issues. So when we have IEPs, the individualized education plan, that children with disabilities get to figure out what kind of services they're going to have and what goals are going to be met and things like that. It's part of the Americans with Disabilities Act and the Fair and Something Education, which is a federal program. But DCFS has violated the federal education plan for Bodhi, and we've actually taken them to court and won already. At one time, we had a family court case, a federal court case, and a criminal court case. at the same time, all on the same case. So, what else we got?